and they give you a big school educational law book. It's about this thick.
Okay. And what roles have you played sitting on the school board so far?
I've been a trustee a few times. I've been a president a few times, a vice president once.
Okay. And how often does the school board meet?
Approximately twice a month. We have a regular meeting, but before the regular meeting, we have what we call a work study meeting. And sometimes we have special meetings or emergency meetings. But for the most part, we have 2 meetings a month.
Okay, so when you guys do have your meetings and everything like that, how far in advance do you normally get the things that are on the docket? How far in advance do you know?
About a week in advance, usually a week in advance.
Okay, now is that
7 days in advance.
Now is that something that's taken into the work study session? If you have questions, how does that work? Yes,
the work study is when you go over the entire agenda docket. And we usually don't vote on anything for the work study unless it's an emergency. Like it may be a trip that the students need to go on or something of that nature, then we would have to vote.
Okay,
right.
So no votes are done during the work study. Pretty much it's just questions and answers. Is
right.
that what
for
happens?
For the most part, yes.
Okay. So I would like to know, when you get something that's on a docket, in terms of making decisions and votes and stuff like that, what are the things that you consider first before you make your decisions?
Well, you have to consider many things. We have to consider that the people that's on their docket, the agenda docket, the personnel, the people, this is pretty much their chosen career, and they feel it's very important to them, and we have to have that same type of feeling of knowing that it is important to people. This is how they put food on the table, so we can't just be careless or reckless when it comes to hiring people or firing people after we get, what people don't really understand, the superintendent is the one that makes recommendations, and the board votes on those recommendations. So if somebody's recommended to be terminated, we vote on it. So I take that very seriously. We have to make sure, we have to look at the facts and make sure everything is together. And there's a thing called progressive discipline also. Sometimes if you don't have progressive discipline, if a person has never been in trouble before, if they don't have anything in their, if you want to call it their folder, if you will, like the employee folder, if they don't have any incidents, sometimes something could be so serious that you have to take action immediately.
Okay, so things are put into a folder to just in case for later on to discuss.
Right, and the only place we could discuss personnel is in executive session.
Okay.
We're not allowed to speak about it publicly. We should not be speaking about employees in public to anyone.
Okay, and is that something you ever did?
What's that?
Talk about personnel information in public? Just, I want to make sure I ask all the questions.
No, okay. I know that's something that I don't do. There's been times where people attack people that they think I may be fond of, and they think that I will go back and tell that person. So I think sometimes it's been almost purposely done to attack certain people that they think that I know very well. So,
okay.
But I don't fall for the traps. I follow the rules and the regulations.
Okay. And how many schools are in the district?
I'm going to name the schools for you instead of just giving you a number.
Okay.
You have Hempstead High School. You have Alberta B. Gray Schultz Middle School.
Okay.
We have Rose Academy.
Right.
We have David Patterson. We have Joseph McNeil. We have Barack Obama.
Okay.
And we have Prospect.
Okay. So we have all the list of the different schools within the district. I think that if you're going to govern, you should know all your schools,
right.
Which is definitely great. What is the size of the Hempstead School District budget?
Well, the budget, unfortunately for many people, the budget has increased. The budget is approximately $352 million. That's a large sum of money.
Okay.
I want everyone to know that I'm a taxpayer also, so board members, we don't get a break. We have to pay the school taxes like anyone else. So whether I was elected, not elected, or not on the board, I still have to pay the same school taxes as everyone else.
Okay. And what is what does most of the budget go towards? What is it utilized for?
Most of it is for employee salaries. I believe 80% is pretty much for employee salaries.
Okay. And I know there's been a big discussion because I know people have reached out to me because, as you know, I'm very fond of what goes on with the school district and the children and everything like that because I'm invested into it based on the fact that I have my own school and everything like that. So I know that there have been discussions about some of the funds going towards the charter school and BOCES.
Right.
How much percent of that is going towards the charter school and BOCES?
I'll do you one better. I'll give you, for the charter schools, for instance, it increases every year. It's over $100 million now.
Okay.
But I want to make it clear, I don't have a problem with the charter schools.
Right.
You know, you have to look at the entire history or the recent history or the 20 or 30-year history of Hempstead schools to understand why at one time people believe that charter schools may have been necessary. And I do believe that parents should have the option if they want their child to attend a charter school, if they think their child is getting a better education. I'm not here to say if it's better or if it's worse, but if that's how they feel,
Right.
I think they should have the option to send their child to a charter school. We have about 3 charter schools that work directly, like in the village. We have Evergreen Charter School, we have the Academy Charter School, and then you have the Roosevelt Academy that's there. Then you also have the Academy has a site in Uniondale.
Okay.
So those are basically where our students go. Like I said before, I don't have any problem with the charter schools. I wish it was funded. The State Department of Education and the lawmakers could come up with a way where they directly fund the charter schools.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be beneficial to the charter schools as well as the public schools.
Okay. So you have a good working relationship with all of the charter schools that are doing the work within the community to help out the district, and parents have a right to choose where they want to go, correct?
Well, I've dealt with Barrett and Golson from the Academy Charter School. I don't want to say we're friends, but we're very cordial. At times he has called me to make sure that they get paid on time.
Right.
And I've done, if they need to be paid, I try to do what I could do. So we have a very good relationship. I attended the church a few times because I'm a person that likes to attend church, so I've been to the church a few times. And for the most part, they have students that's going to Ivy League schools and other prestigious universities, so I have nothing against the charter schools.
Okay.
I just wish it was funded differently so it wouldn't affect our budget.
Okay. And now, what about BOCES? Because I know I heard conversation, especially when we just now had the last debate. They were talking about money going towards BOCES. What about that in terms of the budget? How much of the budget go towards BOCES?
I can't give you the exact number right now, but it's a large amount of money. But I will say that some of our special needs students, it costs up to $100,000, sometimes more, when they're educated through BOCES. So what we're trying to do now is bring as many of those students back to the school district. We're opening up new classes to meet their needs.
Okay. And I have a question here. So first of all, before I even ask about more towards the budget, what department handles the budget? Because I think people have to get an understanding of the departments that handles the budget and the job that the board does when it comes to the budget. Could you explain that to us?
Well, the ironic thing, many people don't understand that the board it's supposed to, in theory, help create the budget, along with the superintendent and assistant superintendent for business.
Okay.
That's how it works. It's not just like a budget is thrown in front of the taxpayers without those people that I just mentioned being involved.
Okay.
So the board does play a role
Okay.
in regards to the budget.
Great. Now, what would you like to see some of the budget money go towards? If you had to kind of come up with some idea, where would some of that money you like to see be allocated towards?
Well, for the most part, most of it is going to a salary, so you have to understand that with the different wages, like New York State law changed the wages in regards to minimum wage, that has went up significantly over the past few years. So that's one of the reasons why the budget has increased.
Right.
But I would like to see more of the money going directly into like reading programs,
Mm-hmm.
programs that's directed directly to the students to help them be able to be proficient in English and reading. I think that would help them in all subject matters. So I think we need more programs that focus directly on reading. But once you can read and read well, you can do anything in the school district. So I think we need to have more focus on that.
Okay. I know it was just recently Teacher Appreciation Month, so I'm going to say, thank you to all the teachers for all of the jobs that you guys have done to help the children within our community, because I am definitely a tiger. So I definitely want to put that out there. Now, in terms of trade schools, is that something that you'd like to see brought into the school district as well?
Well, I would like to see back in the days, and I don't want to go too far back, but back in the 80s and early 90s, they had automotive. But that was different. That was like changing oil, changing brakes.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would like to do is see places like Mercedes-Benz have like apprenticeship programs with the high school, with the, maybe the seniors and juniors, to get them involved with the computer part, the
Right.
computer sides of cars, because cars pretty much now are computerized. It's not, you don't use carburetors anymore. It's everything is fuel injected. You have electric cars. So I would want a program that we could partner with Mercedes-Benz and also Mazda, that's on North Franklin, when they had a tax pilot years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that tax pilot, they were supposed to have 5 students from our schools that would have an apprenticeship program, and that hasn't happened yet. So I'm going to have to reach out to Mazda and say what's going on. Because, we have what you call like an automobile mile. I don't even know if it's a mile, but that's what they call it.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to get those people involved. Even sales. So it could be sales of a car, teaching our students how to sell a vehicle, how to repair a vehicle. Other things I would like to see, like Uniondale School has like a cosmetic program. They have barbers. I would like to see that. We have some great barbers in Hempstead that have taught, I believe, Flex,
Absolutely.
and Mel Corley at Sharp Edges. I believe
Right.
they're involved in the program in Roosevelt. So we need to bring those type of programs to Hempstead.
Right.
Also nursing programs. We have Malloy right down the street on South Franklin if you keep going. So
Right.
Malloy and different
Okay.
schools.
And I know Uniondale have a CNA program.
Right.
So
we need that. We need to bring more of that to the school.
is that something that can possibly happen?
Absolutely.
And question now, how would you make a suggestion in terms of dealing with budgeting, with everything that's going on with the budget? Do you have any suggestions of how you would like to be able to make the necessary changes to bring it back on track?
Well, I think the way we present ourselves as a board plays a significant role in the budget.
Right.
I think we should try our best to look and act professional at all times. When you're handling large sums of money, people have to trust you. So I think we have to do a much better job of looking like professionals, acting like professionals
Okay.
when it comes to getting the necessary funds to benefit our students.
Okay. So I have another question that I would actually like to ask you, because I watched all of the different meetings that you guys have. I'm very concerned, just like everybody else. I like to pay attention to what's going on, and like I said, being that I'm invested in the community,
Right.
I think it's important to see what's going on with the kids and the families, and what's happening with the decision making within the village. And one of the things that I noticed is that there was a meeting that you guys had, and with everything that's going on with this budget, I want to ask the question in terms of the decision with the superintendent. That to me is a question that a lot of people ask me about, and now that you're here, it is definitely a conversation. So why did you say no when everybody else was saying yes?
Why did I say no to bringing in the new superintendent?
Why did you say, right, when they took the vote?
So I said no a few times. So I said no to appointing a new superintendent. I said no to extension more than 30 days. I said no to the salary going from $700 a day to $1,500 a day. So I said no several times.
Okay. And what was your reasons for saying no?
Well, I'm going to be careful how to say this because they're all professionals and people that's the superintendent. Regina Armstrong is still technically the superintendent. She is our superintendent,
Right.
and Susan Johnson is the acting superintendent. So they have careers. So I would have to be careful, and I will be careful in evaluating or saying anything in regards to how I feel about the job that they do or will do.
Of
So
course.
I'm not going to get into that, but I will say that I believe that you were present when the governor of the state of New York, Governor Kathy Hochul, had like a meeting at Kennedy Memorial Park,
Right.
and she said it in front of the world. She said it in front of all the news channels, 2, 4, 7, 5, 9, 11, 12, Telemundo, Noticias, a few other channels. She said it very clearly that Regina Armstrong was doing an outstanding job as superintendent of schools, and she said she was doing such a great job that maybe she should write a book in regards to how she was able to turn Hempstead School District around. Our graduation rate at one time was 37%. They actually even did a documentary about it.
Mm.
And now we're in the high 80s, approaching 90. And
Okay.
the person that was at the helm of the ship, the captain of the ship, if you will, was Regina Armstrong.
Right.
So, there's a saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Okay.
So she's been in the school district more than 30 years in different capacities. She worked her way up. One of the board members in the past, I don't have to say their name because they'll say it on their own, suggested that she become the interim superintendent, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
And I was hesitant at first, but I agreed, and we gave her the opportunity, and the results are the results.
Right.
Like James A. Garner said, results you can see, and you see the results. So I'm happy with the culture that the school district enjoyed while she was at the helm, and we were becoming well respected by state,
Okay.
State Department of Education, assembly members, legislators, senators, and everyone else. They had great respect for us. So, and the other part of it was recently, and I want to thank legislator Robert Troiano. He had so many, and school board president Robert Troiano, and I believe he's a councilman. A few years ago, he had like a big fight for state foundation aid.
Mm-hmm.
And for years, Westbury School District, Hempstead School District, and other school districts, we didn't get the necessary funding according to the state aid formula. So last year was one of the first years we got the money that we were supposed to receive.
Wow.
So that took hard work. None of this happened by mistake. None of this happened by happenstance. We didn't get lucky. It took hard work. It took the right people in place. It took lobbying in Albany. We have a lobbying firm. We have a public relations firm. So it took a lot to start changing the narrative about Hempstead being the worst school district in New York State. And if I fail to mention, I'm going to mention that we were recognized in Newsday, who never really wants to recognize it at all, as the most improved school district in all of New York State. Not the best, but the most improved. And we're working our way towards being one of the best, if not the best, in Nassau County.
Okay. So do you believe that, everything is based on relationships when you're, getting some of the different funding and grants and stuff like that? I
believe that's very important. I'm happy that two of the people that represent this area, I know they'll do the best by the students. I know that Cilla Bynum was a former school board member herself, and I'm happy that she started the fight to help us get the necessary funds we need to educate our students. As a former school board member, she knows like Westbury has similar demographics.
Mm-hmm.
Academically, they were doing a little better than Hempstead, but she understands the needs of the students. And I'm also happy that we have a former teacher from the Hempstead School District, Assemblyman Noah Burrows, who I know is going to fight for the students.
Okay, wonderful.
So I'm happy about that. So we have people in place, and Governor Hochul I have to give her kudos also. She has done more than any other of the previous governors, especially for Hempstead School District.
Okay.
So I believe we have a good relationship.
Okay, that's wonderful. So, what are some of the initiatives that you have taken to help resolve some of the deficit that's going on within the school budget?
people keep saying something about a deficit. Like I said at the forum the other day, what is the deficit? Where did we actually get that information from that is a deficit?
Right.
You know, there's different type of funds. You have reserve funds, you have funds that's allocated for different things. Where is there actually a deficit? Now, the problem was we didn't think we was going to get the necessary amount from the state.
Okay.
So that narrative about closing a school and it was a deficit, I think that was very premature. That's in my opinion.
Right.
It was a premature. And then you have the budget rising up and going higher and higher. But I don't want to blame the charter schools because that's becoming a theme, that blame the charter schools. But the other part of it, you have to look at it like this. The charter school thing is something that we can't necessarily fight, but we could make wise decisions instead of having 2 superintendents on the payroll, and really in essence having 3 because we have a state monitor also. Okay. So you have 2 superintendents, you have a superintendent, you have an acting superintendent, and then you have a former superintendent all at the same time.
Okay, so I have a question. So is the school budget paying for all 3 of these people at the same time right now?
We get some funding for the state monitor, some funding.
Okay.
We get some funding for the state monitor. The acting superintendent, that wasn't part of the budget. Okay. So to me, you know, people like to speak about wasteful spending. We need to start there. And the decisions, that was a decision that wasn't necessary. That was a decision that the board members that voted for decided to make that way.
Okay, so I guess I can, because I know you voted no, but I had asked you prior to, when making these kind of decisions, shouldn't there have been someone already put in place instead of having to pay so many people under budget? Because if you're paying 3 and the length of time, is there like a cutoff, or you know, what are the plans now moving forward?
Well, this is how I look at it. We have to make decisions that benefit the students. And it's my belief, and I'm not going to get into the reasons why whoever voted for the way they voted, but it's my belief, and from my experience in being on the board 12 years, I know that when you have a person in place that's respected, it makes it more difficult to get the necessary funds for the school district, for the students, because they don't necessarily trust everyone.
Right.
I know they trusted Regina Armstrong. I don't know how they feel about anyone else, and I'm not going to get into my opinion on how they feel, but I know that, like I said, it was working. Our students were doing better. We don't have the big fights, you know, like when you was in high school and when I was in high school at 3 p.m., there was so many people fighting on Peninsula, 200, 300 students fighting at a time. This was commonplace. The gang activity. Yeah. Taco Bell had to close. McDonald's had to close. I'm happy to say those days are over. I advocated for us having SROs, the police officers that's on scene, and that happened to be very helpful. We did have one unfortunate incident, I believe it was last year or maybe the year before, where it was shots fired, and because they was in close proximity, the SROs did a great job, and they made an arrest immediately, very shortly after the incident. So I think that helps deter crime. It's not about criminalizing our students or making our students feel that they're criminals. What it is offers that actual safety net. And the SROs, they actually speak to the students and they engage with the students. They have the officers that sit there are ones that's kind of more like community police type of officers that believe in speaking to the students and encouraging the students.
Okay. Now, with the budget and everything like that, I know that we are a walking district. Right. Where our kids been walking for years. Right. And I know that there was, with the state monitoring coming in, there was also money that came in for the buses, for the children. I believe that Legislator Vinyl also had made arrangements for Knight's Bus Company to help and everything like that. But what happened to the buses? I would like to know about that.
I want to speak on the average, and I want to speak about what you said before. With the Knight's program, with Knight's Bus, years ago when I was in high school, way back in the late 80s, they had a bus that would go down Westbury Boulevard. I live on one of the most northernmost parts of Hempstead,
Right.
only 1 block away from Garden City. So they had a bus that would go up Westbury Boulevard and would go all the way to the high school.
Okay.
So myself and some other board members at the time, I believe Randy Stiff played a major role also, because he also lives right around the corner from me. And we always say, you know what, it's too cold. When it's cold, the walk in the winter, the rain, our students shouldn't have to walk that far.
I remember Dr. Gates played a part in that too.
Dr. Gates actually did play a very big role,
Yep.
because he met with the chairman of NONS.
I remember.
Right. But he didn't have the same feeling. He grew up on Martin Luther King Drive.
Right.
So that's not far from the high school. So he didn't know the actual pain of walking almost more than 2 miles to school. Myself and Trustee Stiff, we knew how it was to walk that far. So we were more fighting for it.
Right.
That was more. So anyway, Cilla Brown, she did do a great job. They had a program, but unfortunately, the students didn't take advantage of it. The ridership was very low, so they ended that program.
Okay.
Now, to go a little further, then you had Assemblywoman Darling. One of her issues when she was running for office, she was talking about students. First of all, it's no 3 miles is no area in Hempstead where you can walk 3 miles. So that's not the distance. I think the most is maybe 2.4 miles, 2.5 miles. But anyway, she was saying she was going to fight to get transportation or school buses. So we finally, now you got to understand, and I'm not taking blame from the board. It's not about blame, but the board, we let people know that what the community wanted, what would benefit our students in regards to the travel.
Right.
Of traveling. So it's up to the professionals, the business assistant, superintendent for business, the monitor played a role, the superintendent and the attorneys involved to find a way to get those buses. So the $1 million, I was told that she gave us $1 million. We even had a press conference with a check and everything.
Yeah, I was there.
Right, you were there. I remember you being there. Now, I was told by one administrator that we did have the funds came in, but then I'm hearing now that the funds did not come in.
Okay.
So what happens usually with grants and things of that nature, oftentimes you have to spend the money first and then be reimbursed by the grant for the monies or where the money's allocated.
Correct.
So that's something that, was good intentions. It's something that we have to find a way to get those buses on the road. That's something I'm not proud about.
Okay, so I know that you guys did spend the money because there were 2 buses that was purchased.
Right, exactly.
So those 2 buses that are purchased, where are the buses and are they being utilized anyplace?
Those buses, if you go to 185 Peninsula, which is Alberta B. Greg Schultz Middle School, and you look at the beginning of the parking lot, those 2 buses have been there since they've been purchased.
Okay.
Now, when they originally were purchased, you had board members got on Facebook, and I guess they was proud of it, which is nothing wrong with that, or wanted to take credit for getting the buses there, but they haven't been used, and that's something that we have to continue to work hard. I was told that they was going to try to find a way to get drivers, but you have to go by rules. State Department of Education has rules.
Right.
Even though it's a good idea, you have to follow the rules.
Yeah, of course. Right. Everything have policies and procedures and stuff like that you have to follow.
Right.
And I know that you guys got policy and procedures. How often is the policy and procedures updated?
They've been updating them recently.
Okay.
Last year they had policy meetings, and along with the attorneys, they were not able or they didn't get anything done. But recently, we were able to get some of the policies.
Okay. Is there a committee for
policies?
Yeah,
they have a policy committee, yes.
Okay. And the policy, how many people sit on that policy? Because, see, I know with us, we are appointed to different committees that we have to be overseers of the library, the parks, and then it's our job to make sure that certain things are, done, and we're like the eyes and ears of make sure that we follow to see things happening. Now, is it the same similarity? And if you can just kind of give us a breakdown of how your committees are formed and to discuss the policies on how it's upgraded.
Well, certain policies, attorneys, our general counsel gives us updates, and some of the policies are changed that way. So the idea that no policy has been changed for a certain amount of years, that's absolutely not true.
Okay.
There's some things that's mandated, and when we get those messages from the attorneys, those policies have been changed. So the idea that the policies haven't been changed for years is not true. But more importantly, is a policy is like anything else that's on paper. So it's just like order protection.
Right.
It's a piece of paper, but it's up to people to follow the policies.
Okay. Could you give us an example of a
times,
policy?
at times people, well, one of the policies, and it's part of that's the Sunshine Law, it's part of our policy where board members, if you have more than 2 board members, that's considered a meeting.
Okay.
And that's not allowable, so I'll give you that example.
Okay. Okay, that's a good one, because we have the same one too. You can't have more than 2 of us together
Right.
at, during
Right,
the
it's like
sundown.
people think that the board sits around and makes decisions. We're not allowed to do that. I mean, it may be people that speak and come up with an idea before a meeting, but you cannot have more than 2 board members. If more than 2 board members constitutes, that means you're having a meeting.
Right, so then that goes back to the work study meeting that you were talking about,
Right.
that you guys have to have in order to make.
Well, we don't have to have it, but that has proven to make the meetings run smoother.
Okay, wow, that's good information, that you're sharing with us. So my other question is that I know that, you work as a board member as well as a president, for the school board and everything like that. So with that being said, I know that the upcoming election is gonna be taking place on May the 20th. Now, tell us why we should vote for you.
Why you should vote for me?
Yes.
Well, believe it or not, I try to be humble. I try to be humble as possible. Many times people don't want to believe that,
Right.
but I believe that I work very hard. I've dedicated a large amount of my time to the Hempstead School District for the past, not even 12 years, it's been longer than that, because I was appointed to the audit committee in 2010. So for 15 years, I've dedicated most of my free time, if not almost all my free time, to the Hempstead School District. I've advocated for the school district. I've had different groups of people come at me. Some of them wanted better for the school district. Some of them wanted to take over the school district. And I had made a conscious decision years ago that I'm not going to be the person that hands over the school district to anyone. I made a conscious effort to try to be part of a team of people that had similar beliefs and wanted to see Hempstead School District do better. I wanted to be a school district that we're all proud of. And I worked very hard. And I do feel at times, but I'm not going to be selfish, I do feel at times that when things were going bad, people didn't mind, they don't mind placing the blame, but when things get better, they don't want to give you any credit.
Mm.
You know, it's not about me, it's about the students. And what we have to understand, I have a great understanding. I've seen a lot of people in Hempstead, I've seen a lot of people leave Hempstead School District and not be prepared for what's going to happen in their careers and their future. So I'm happy to say that the time that I've been on the board, I worked very hard to ensure that the students are capable of handling that vicious outside world. And they're getting a better education. Quality of education is much better than it was when I first was elected. So I just want to continue that. I also want to say that I noticed that years ago, when the school district seemed to be at its worst, we had many community groups, Communities for Change, TCC, and other groups. At times, I wish that they would continue to hold board members accountable, that they would come to meetings, that they would become more involved.
Okay.
You know, because I was here for it all. I was here, like I said, for the bad times, and now we get into the good times. And I believe I played a role in that. I was a great advocate for the school district. Oftentimes I had to speak on behalf of the school district and crisis. I know how to deal with crisis. I've dealt with several crises, such as when the unaccompanied children came to Hempstead. But one time we had 100 students a day coming to the school district.
Wow.
And it was not just a disservice to those students. Why would you send those many students to a school district that you say is a failing school district, that's already overcrowded, that's already underfunded. So it was a tragedy that no one was advocating for those students, for those young people. It doesn't matter where they come from, everybody has a right to a quality education.
Absolutely.
But I'm happy to say also that we're working together as a community. Hempstead is a blended community now, a rainbow of humanity, of people getting along. I'm thankful for programs like the Empire Soccer Program, that we have African Americans, Hispanics, West Indians, East Indians, whites, blacks, everybody engaging, working together, playing sport together, teamwork together. If you look at our plays, we have Latino students playing African Americans. We are actually a school district that's, the culture has changed where we're not fighting one another, we're becoming more of a family. And I want to thank the principal of the high school for bringing everyone together. And I think we're doing a better job of us coming together for the benefit of our students. And you also have to understand that our student population is 80% Hispanic Latino. And I think we've done our best to meet the needs of all our students.
And how many students are in the school currently? Because I know everything that's going on right now with the immigration and stuff like that. Did you find that kids are not coming to school?
We had a small drop, but it's not as severe as people say. I heard one panelist that you were speaking to said that we have under 4,000 students, and that's absolutely not true. We have over 5,200 students that's in the public schools. And additionally, you have about 3,000 students that's in the charter schools. So altogether, Hempstead is responsible for the education of about 8,000 students.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so you still count them, which is great.
Yes, and we believe, and I think I can speak for the rest of the board members, we believe that a school should be a safe haven for the students. That's one place they should feel safe. They shouldn't have to worry about ICE or anyone else. And if ICE or anyone else comes to the schools, they have to have the proper paperwork, and they have to verify who they are, and they would have to have a warrant. And if there's any doubt that they are who they say they are, we will contact the Hempstead Police and help them work it out.
Okay, which is very important. I have one more question that I actually...
And one thing I wanted to say, as far as institutional knowledge, I don't think you'll find anybody else running that has more institutional knowledge than I do.
Okay. Well, I wanted to actually just ask you, in terms of your relationship with the other board members and stuff like that, would you continue to have a good relationship after this is all done? Because to me, it's never nothing personal. You know, sometimes people make it seem like it's worse than what it really is. But at the end of the day, if we don't work together, how are we going to be able to get things done? So I would like to know that, you know, are you going to be able to work well with anybody that sits on that board?
This is a great thing to know about Lamont Johnson, right? I'm not vindictive. I don't hold grudges. And I can honestly say that everybody that's on that school board or wants to be on that school board, I've had like a prior relationship with them. I've worked with them. I've supported them. I've actually went around and got petitions for people that's on the school board.
Right.
I actually donated time and money to some of them. And one of the school board members, I'm the one that said, you know what, I elect this person to be president, so it's not always about Lamont Johnson.
Right.
So one of the persons that's running was a boxer. I was a boxer myself. I was a licensed amateur boxing coach, and that person will tell you, if you ask that person that when he wasn't doing too well in the ring, I told him what to do, and he came out with a knockout win. So I don't have any animosity towards anyone. Like I said, whoever wins, more power to them. Whoever wins, I'm still going to continue doing what I do for the benefit of the students. I'm not going to let adult foolishness stop the progress of the students. And that's my pledge, that's my promise. So I really don't have any problems with anyone. They may have a problem with me, but that's how they feel. like I'm willing to go on. You know, like people would think that I may have a problem with Gwendolyn Jackson. Absolutely not. I called her and reached out to her to be on the audit committee because I know she would be a financial watchdog, that she would help watch the funds, and if anything seemed wrong, she would look for it and spot it. So that's the type of person I am. It doesn't matter if people like me or don't like me. I really don't, you know. But I am confident that even though people may try to turn the public against me, I have a great relationship with the public. They know that if they call me, that I have attempted to help them. If you call Lamont, you know Lamont is going to try to help, and that's what people know about me. So they could try. They could say, oh, he shouldn't this or he shouldn't be that or what. It doesn't. My integrity is something that means a lot to me.
Okay.
And the most important people that are happy with me or proud of me was my father, who's deceased, and my mother, who's still alive. They're happy with me. I'm good with that.
Well,
and you can't make everybody happy.
No, you can't. Amen to that. You know, all right, guys, as you saw, we had the conversation, we conversed, and once again, you make the decision for yourself.
And let them tell them this is live, this is not rehearsed.
It is.
This is absolutely live and live in color. I'm where I'm at. I'm not going to tell you the location where I'm at, but this is live, this is happening right now. This is not rehearsed. I didn't see any of the questions, and I answered it where I can answer, and I want everybody to come out to vote. May 20th, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. at Alberta B. Grace Schultz Middle School. That's on Greenwich, and that's without a W. The W is silent, Greenwich. I believe it's 70 Greenwich. Please come out and vote. I want you to support myself, and I really appreciate your support. And I promise you that I will do my very best for our students. I will continue to do the best for our students. I will help them get the necessary funding, the necessary tools to be successful.
Well, as you guys heard, like I said, we had the conversation, and this is definitely a live, so nothing is given to anybody prior. It is just good conversation so that everybody can make the right decision when it comes to voting. I asked everybody to come on because this is the platform to discuss what it is that you're going to do for the community. So that's what this platform is all about. So, Trustee Lamont, I thank you so much.
I do want to say one thing, because people.
You ain't stopping my life, but go ahead.
People say when Hempstead students can't do it. I believe in the students, and they are amazing me what they're doing. They're doing some great things. Ivy League schools, full scholarships, Questbridge scholarships, doctors, lawyers, soon to be presidents one day. We have it all.
I think you guys have some students that actually went over to the White House, correct?
Absolutely.
And worked there?
Listen. We're doing everything to let our students know that they're capable of performing in a global economy, society. Our students are great.
And that's what we want to do. We want to keep it up because the children are our future, and we want to make sure that we have the right people in place to continue.
And I forgot to mention that beautiful